The wind howled through the empty plains that night. But it wasn't just the storm that brought fear. A woman drenched and bleeding appeared at a lone rancher's door, begging for help. He should have turned her away, but the moment he pulled her inside, his fate was sealed. Because the man hunting her was the sheriff himself. Now trapped between sin and survival, Elias Crow will do something no man ever should. Something that will burn his past, his home, and maybe even his soul. This isn't just another Wild West story. It's the night a rancher did the unthinkable. The night was alive with fury. Wind shrieking across the open plains, thunder rolling like distant gunfire. Elias Crow wrestled the barn doors shut, his soaked shirt clinging to his back as the storm raged harder. The rain came down in sheets, turning the dirt into black mud, drowning out the sound of everything but the wind. It was the kind of night when nothing good ever came knocking. And then, it did. A faint pounding cut through the roar of the storm. At first, Elias thought it was the wind again. But then came another knock, desperate, uneven, trembling. He grabbed the rifle leaning by the wall, stepping carefully toward the door. When he pulled it open, the wind nearly tore it from his hands. A woman stood there, drenched from head to toe. Her hair stuck to her face, her dress torn and heavy with rain. Mud streaked her legs, and her lips were pale from the cold. She looked like she'd run through hell itself just to reach his doorstep. "Please," she gasped, clutching her side. "I'm begging you, hurry up! He's still out there." Elias froze. The storm howled behind her, lightning flashing just long enough for him to see the terror in her eyes. The kind of fear that came from being hunted. Without another word, he pulled her inside, slamming the door shut and sliding the bolt across. The woman stumbled, her knees buckling, and he caught her before she hit the ground. That's when he felt it, the warmth of blood on his hands. He looked down, her fingers pressed against her ribs, trying to stop the bleeding. "Who did this?" he asked, his voice rough, unused to company. She shook her head. "No time. He'll find me if you don't hide me." Elias's heart thudded against his ribs. He had seen fear before, in dying cattle and broken men, in his own reflection. But this was different. This was raw human terror. The wind slammed against the door again, as if the storm itself wanted her back. He dragged her toward the corner of the barn, lowering her onto a pile of dry hay. She winced, clutching her wound tighter. "Stay still," he said, lighting a lantern. The soft glow revealed a face too young for the pain she carried, and eyes that told stories she'd never dare speak. Outside, a horse neighed in the distance. The woman flinched. Elias blew out the light, the barn falling into darkness again. Only the sound of her ragged breathing filled the space between thunder and silence. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what trouble she brought to his door. But in that moment, and with the storm raging, her blood soaking into his hands, and her whisper breaking through the dark, Elias Crow knew one thing. Whatever was coming for her had just come for him too. Lightning ripped through the black sky, flooding the barn in flashes of white. For a moment, Elias thought the storm itself had found its way inside. The woman lay on the hay, her dress torn and soaked with blood, her breath shallow like a dying whisper. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands trembling as he pressed against the wound. Warm blood seeped through his fingers. "Stay with me," he muttered, tearing off his shirt sleeve and wrapping it around her side. She winced but didn't cry out, just stared at him with wide, terrified eyes. He could see the desperation there, something deeper than pain, something running from more than bullets. Thunder boomed again, shaking the barn doors. Elias could hear the wind howling through the cracks, carrying the faint echo of men shouting in the distance. Whoever she was running from, they were close. Her fingers clutched his wrist. "If they find me, they'll kill us both." He paused, the smell of blood mixed with the scent of wet dirt and old wood. He could have thrown her out right then. He could have saved himself. But when he looked at her, pale, fragile, trembling, something inside him twisted. She wasn't a stranger anymore. She was someone's victim, maybe even someone's possession. He slipped an arm under her knees, lifting her gently. She gasped, her head falling against his shoulder, but he didn't stop. He carried her to the back of the barn, a hidden stall his father once used to hide men running from the law. He laid her on an old blanket, his shadow flickering against the wall as lightning struck again. Then, as he brushed the mud from her face, the light revealed something that made his stomach drop, and a silver chain around her neck, the sheriff's emblem hanging from it. His breath caught. He knew that mark. Everyone in town did. She saw the look in his eyes. "You know now," she whispered. Elias stepped back, his mind spinning. The sheriff's wife. The one everyone thought was safe, holy, untouchable. What the hell was she doing here, bleeding in his arms? He didn't answer. The storm outside grew louder, wind rattling the doors like fists pounding to get in. He stared at her, torn between the law he feared and the woman who just dragged him into her sin. And still he couldn't walk away. Hooves thundered outside, echoing through the storm like a warning from hell itself. Elias held his breath, his pulse beating louder than the rain on the roof. The woman stirred in his arms, her lips trembling as she whispered his name, a name she shouldn't have known. He looked down at her, her face pale, her breath shallow. Outside, men were shouting. He could hear the sheriff's voice, that cold, commanding, the same man whose face haunted the wanted posters nailed across the county. She's mine. Bring her out, alive or dead. Elias clenched his jaw. He wasn't a hero. Never was. He'd spent years burying his sins beneath dirt and whiskey. But something about her, the fear in her eyes, the way she clung to life, dragged him into the fire. He lifted her again, feeling the tremor in her body as he carried her toward the back door of the barn. The air reeked of hay and smoke. Lightning cracked, revealing the rifle hanging on the wall. For a heartbeat, he thought about ending it right there, for both of them. No running, no pain, no more pretending. But her hand reached for his face, soft despite the blood. Please, don't let them take me back. That broke him. Without another thought, he struck a match, dropped it onto the oil-soaked floor, and watched the fire crawl like a living thing. The barn erupted in light, flames devouring wood, shadows, and sin alike. He kicked open the back door, threw her onto his horse, and climbed up behind her. The heat licked their backs as they rode into the storm. The world behind them burning, the law closing in ahead. He didn't know where they were going, only that there was no turning back. As dawn crept over the charred valley, smoke rose from what once was his life. He looked down at her, her head resting against his chest, her heartbeat weak but alive. Elias exhaled, half broken, half free. He had done the unthinkable. Not for vengeance, not for redemption, for love, the kind that ruins everything and saves nothing.